It breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart when I see, especially new young moms, just struggling so much. And I think a big part of that is the isolation. I really feel like we live in a world now where mothers are so isolated. Are you craving more peace and presence at home, but feel constantly overwhelmed by your to do list? Welcome to Intentional Motherhood. I'm Kelsey Red, a mental health counselor turned stay at home mom, teaching busy Christian moms to make mindset shifts so they can actually enjoy motherhood. Did you know that I send out newsletters so that you never have to miss anything going on with intentional motherhood? Head over to the show notes or the website creatingintentionalmothers.com to get signed up today. Hey friends, in the last episode, I talked a little bit about the discouragement that I felt sometimes with this journey on this podcast, but also how sometimes we just feel a little discouraged generally in our lives and as mothers. And I talked about how a big part of that is because we zoom out and see some unrealistic examples of people who seem to be doing everything perfectly all the time, and it looks so easy for them. And then we wonder why we're not the same way, and how sometimes we need to zoom back in and actually focus on the smaller world within our family that we really have an incredible impact on. But there's another aspect of this struggle that moms go through that I've also been thinking about, and that really has been weighing heavily on my mind. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that today. And I know I've said this before, and I will say it again because I do not believe that God intended mothers and motherhood to feel miserable. I just don't believe that He created the most beautiful, amazing role for women, this divine role that we play in the grand scheme of things, and that then they are supposed to feel miserable the whole time that they're mothering. That just doesn't make sense to me. And yet it breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart when I see, especially new young moms, just struggling so much. And I think a big part of that is the isolation. I really feel like we live in a world now where mothers are so isolated that we're not meant to parent that way. We're not meant to live that way. There used to be villages and women working together to create a whole village that was helping raise your children. And now we're in a very isolated world. And I remember I have these vivid memories of standing in front of my upstairs window that looked out into the street in the front of my house so I could see the whole neighborhood, rocking a crying baby probably, and just like praying that someone would notice me, that someone would look up and see me in the window, that someone would think of me, that someone would text me and just invite me to do something, just knock on the door and say, I just came over because I wanted to say hi." And I would be like, "Thank you. I needed to talk to another human today." And I just remember that. And it is such, unfortunately, a dark and sad period. Like I remember it with, like, it makes me sad and feels very, um, a little depressing to think about and talk about right now. And yet that was my first experience as a new mom. And you guys know, if you've been listening to my podcast, that I I struggled and tried and waited for over a decade to be a mom. It was all I wanted. And I had this idealized version of what motherhood would be like. And then there I was with my twins, barely keeping it together, staring out my window, crying, wishing that someone would talk to me. And it's those kinds of memories that make me think, like, that is not what I imagined when I waited and tried for a decade to have babies. That is not what I thought motherhood would be like, and that's not what motherhood is supposed to be like. And here I am, 7 years later. My twins are soon to be 7, and of course there are still hard days. Of course there are still days when I look at my husband and I am like, I have not left the house all day, and it's 6 o'clock p.m. and should I shower and get dressed and put makeup on now, or just get back in bed and start over tomorrow morning? Because what's the point at this point in the afternoon and evening? So there are still those days when I seek that socialization and that fulfillment as a person and as an individual and as a mom. I can tell you guys, it is such a different life that I'm living than those first early years. Of course, things are a little bit different because I'm not struggling with 3 babies under 2 like I did at the beginning, and the ages make things easier in and of themselves, but I can also say that there are mindset shifts that I have made. There are lifestyle shifts that I have made. There are certain circumstances that I realized I could not live with, including, like my husband working long hours, commuting. I knew there had to be a different way, and we through a miracle from God and through our persistence, found a situation where he was able to work remote and have more flexible hours. And that has made a huge difference. I've also found the need for my own tribe, the need for my own community of friends, the need for my own interests and hobbies and endeavors that are separate from motherhood. I think it's so critical to have a mother group, that group of women who can connect with what you're going through, that feel exactly what you feel because they're going through it day in and day out with you, just like you, in the same stages as you. And that is critical to be able to text someone and be like, oh my gosh, I just freaked out at my kid and I feel like such, a horrible mom right now. And the baby is having blowouts every other hour and I just don't know if I can handle it. And for a mom to be able to respond and be like, I know exactly what you're going through. I yelled at my kid too. We're doing great. Like that is so necessary. But I will also say some of the most, what's the right way to say this? Mental health, sanity saving tribes are actually the communities of people that I have that are totally separate and outside of motherhood. To be able to go interact, whether it's virtually, remotely, or in person, with communities of people who don't ask me about my kids, who don't even think of me as a mom per se, but just think of me as Kelsey, the person who's coming to play pickleball with this group or to network in this, I'm really into finances. So in this financial realm, and who just talks to me about that subject, or maybe doesn't talk to me at all because we're just busy doing something. That is so refreshing. That allows me to feel like, oh, I am more than just a mom. I'm still my own person. I still have an identity outside of just being my kid's mom. And it really is beneficial. So I encourage women to actually go find groups that maybe feel completely outside of your comfort zone. Like I said, go learn a new skill, go find an interest group that isn't just moms with young children or isn't just homeschooling groups, but is maybe a writing class or a book club that is in a more diverse group or finances, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be like a side gig. It doesn't have to be something that you're investing a lot in, like of your resources to like go back to school or whatever. A sports group, just join a sports team, go grab a co-ed soccer club, something where you're interacting with more than just people who maybe can only identify you as a mom. Because I just think there's a lot to be said of feeling like you are your own person, your own individual person, and maybe you and your spouse can even do some of these things together so that you can reconnect as a couple, not just as parents, because so much changes when you go from a couple to parents. And ultimately, you guys, I hope that you feel like this is a community for you, where you belong, where you can be part of a group of moms who do get it and who is here to encourage you and support you. And honestly, that I feel like is one of the things that I want more than anything is to create a community, to create a place where people feel safe, that they can go and that they can talk about the things that are outside of motherhood, the things that are the challenges that are within motherhood, that they can feel uplifted and supported and a part of something, a part of a tribe. And I want you guys to know that I do think about you guys, and I hope that my only goal is that one of these episodes at some point is helping someone along the way. So I appreciate you being here with me. I appreciate you sticking with me through this last year. And I'll see you next time on Intentional Motherhood. Thanks for joining me today on Intentional Motherhood. If you enjoyed this episode, would you take 30 seconds to rate and review it so more and more moms can find this podcast? I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you're doing an amazing job.